Welcome back to the arena. I'm Hudson Brock, your host, and today I'm with a very special guest, my dad, Krue Brock, aka the original ReKRUEter.
See
Welcome.
what you did there.
Yep.
You guys spelled it right though. ReKRUEter with a K.
ReKRUE with a K. Ter. Fun fact: when I was looking at names for our recruiting agency, which is now AlloHire, one of the names that came to mind was Krue Builder, which, kind of playing on the idea of team builder. But the reason I came up with that is I was thinking of people that had inspired me in recruiting and in business. And two of the people that came to mind were my dad, Krue, and my brother, whose legal name is Builder. I was like, sweet, I'll just put this together, Krue Builder. And unfortunately, that one got shot down by some branding friends of mine. But
you're funny to watch because naming is such an important thing. And I think it really matters, but a lot of people just don't think about it so much. So when you have to decide on a name, you stress. You really, because you want to have intentionality on like, oh, this is why I thought this. Yes. You get lost a little bit.
Extreme
it's good though.
Intentionality.
It's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
But if you want to learn why we named it AlloHire, look at the previous episode and you can learn more. It was one of about 120 names that I have on my notes, and I think we landed on a good one. So
where's the O these days?
Where's the O?
Yeah.
Oh, it's out there.
All right.
Yeah, we got a slight change to our logo happening. We're going from hopefully a straight line over the O to a caret or circumflex. Is that what
Circumflex, yeah.
Circumflex
French.
for math.
Caret.
Which will have some cool symbolism too that we'll talk about once it's official.
All right, good. I'll be quiet then.
But welcome to the arena.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, as I told you, the whole podcast is trying to explore what it means to be in the arena, and the war for talent. And to me, the war for talent often starts with retaining the talent you have, retaining and maximizing the talent that you have. That happens through culture. Culture is the best strategy. And when I was thinking about my journey and how AlloHire came to be, you've been such a big part. And I think that you've always been a recruiter in the purest sense of the word. And unfortunately, recruiting, you're not on LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
One day we'll get him. But yeah, imagine recruiting without LinkedIn. It's pretty crazy.
Smoke signals,
pigeons. But yeah, unfortunately now recruiting has a bad rap in a lot of areas because there's been no barrier to entry. There's no industry-wide certification. It's not a degree. And you think about real estate, financial services, any other like professional service, there's some type of credibility built in.
Interesting.
That's one of the things I would love to hear from you is kind of how you build credibility as a recruiter, whether it's your title professionally or just a role you take in your community. So very open-ended. I'd love to hear what recruiting means to you and how you've played in that space the past 50 years.
Yeah, well, it's a great question. My experience has been here in Chattanooga more than anywhere else. And I think for me, it's been, this combination of trying to really recruit just people to come be a part of life here. So it's maybe not even for work specific for a company, but like thinking about people and place. This place has been a really important thing for me. So how do you encourage people who have kind of something to add here? And when you think about I always think do community mapping, and you think, what are we missing? And then how do we go find people to come here? And that's been really fun to watch. I think the thing it's also hard to kind of be patient with is, let it take its time slowly. You want to grow at the right pace. And so, if instead of having a ton of people move quickly, having the right people move at the right time, at the right pace, and kind of really learn to assimilate. Again, it's a lot of work to kind of assimilate into a community. And so if you have too many people come, it tilts the balance a little bit. So I don't know if that makes sense. But and then I think once you get to know a community, my thing is, is you walk around and get to know different parts of the city and get to know companies, find out what people are trying to be about. And so it's not necessarily just a specific job title as much as the team they're building, and how do we kind of look for those type people to help be a part of it. And then I'm a flow guy. So I love it when you know somebody needs something, kind of keep it simmering on the back burner of your head or heart or wherever you burn stuff like that. And then you'll hear somebody and you'll realize, oh, that would be a great person. And so to me, that the idea of trying to connect people where they have a gifting to where there's a need is the most fun. And, you know, it's my experience so far, for the most part, has been when that happens naturally as best possible. Your job, I think, is, you know, you're on a timeline. You got to get it done. So they're really different. I think yours is much more of a, you know, art and a technique, and mine's probably more just a flow. I don't know how you put
Flow.
that.
Yeah. Well, I've heard you mention your role almost like being a ligament of the city. What does that mean?
Well, I think the older I get, the more I actually believe I was made. Like I do think the whole world is kind of like a integrated body, a family of sorts, but like a body is a good metaphor. And so if we are, you know, we're not all the same. And I think it's very tempting sometimes as you're growing up to watch people and certain things get valued, or it's funny to your own experience how you're in a certain situation and somebody got a lot of credit for something, and you tend to want to be like that. But if you're honest and if you're growing in wisdom, I think you begin to realize, oh, I was made a unique way, and that was with intention, and that's probably good. Even if it's maybe not as important in certain people's minds, whatever. But so it's learning how to settle in. And I think fundamentally I was created to be like a tendon or a ligament, meaning that's my part of the body. I like to hold things together. I like when things are disconnected, I want to connect them if they ought to be connected. So I mean, it's just kind of, it helps me see myself that way.
So I grew up seeing my dad just show up at different businesses. I don't think there was a meeting set. I don't think Google Calendar or any type of software calendar existed. This is early 90s, what I'm thinking of.
I still like doing a little post-it. I know, like write notes out. But
Post-it notes drives me crazy. But just having the relationship with the founder or, you know, a leader within the organization to say, hey, open door to you. Show up. We want you to know what we're about. We want you to know our vision. We've been talking a lot about mission, vision, values. So MVV,
mission, vision,
and values.
Okay.
And bring other people into that conversation. Like make introductions, come show them our space. And as a kid, I just felt normal. And then the older I've gotten, I'm like, oh, most people don't operate that way, where it's really a friend or friend of a friend that you're introducing to another friend or friend of a friend, and just assuming that relationship. And so, yeah, I think that's something we've talked a lot about at AlloHire. And how do you do that when you're not physically in that space, like Chattanooga, showing up? The world has shifted a lot, especially in the tech space, towards remote work. And everyone's trying to figure that out. It's a steep learning curve in a lot of ways. But for us, and even for this podcast, it's in partnership with Experts Exchange. They've got this amazing community of technologists all over the country, maybe even all over the world. I think it's around 20,000 plus people. And yeah, so how do you do that at scale? Can you do it at scale remotely? I know you have such a heart for place and Chattanooga, but that's something we've been talking about too. Like, how much can you really do that remotely across the country or across the world?
Well, I mean, it's a great question and great insight. I think, again, I don't want to keep saying the older I get, we're all getting older at the same pace, but I do really believe that the entire world is naturally, relationally, way more connected than we think about. And so I would argue, you know, I'm just a couple of relationships from every single person in the whole world. And that's like literal friend, a friend, a friend, a friend. And so your technology that I think y'all use does the same mapping. And I think we have to just hold those in tension. One is a tool that, you know, technically allows you to make those connections, you know, via, you know, LinkedIn or whatever. And the other is to do the work of remembering, this is my friend who lives here, who has that friend, you know, and I think both are important. You know, I don't think one's the tool really can serve the other, but I think it's one of the work jobs that we have to do is make sure the relationships are intact. We still remember that's a real person, that's their name. This is who they are, and this is where they live. But then they're, when they think about their own city or their own country or their own part of the world, it's not as far away as we think, I think. So that's my hunch.
I like that. And I think we're all feeling you can't replace a high five, a handshake, some eye contact, feeling the space. Like in terms of culture, it's become a lot of good buzzwords in digital marketing for a lot of companies. And as recruiters, I have a huge appetite to go to the space, meet with the leaders, and just see what it feels like. Eye contact, break bread, have a meal, whatever it is. And we found that the companies that we end up being the best partner to, kind of extension of their brand, we have spent in-person time at their space. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to figure out how we do this. And like big tech companies are trying to figure it out too. I think like hybrid models, maybe you separate just specific teams to certain geographies. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
I'm an IDS guy, which means like I like to connect, not
What's
just
IDS?
Interdisciplinary or integrated life. So I think again, one of the things that I'm keen on is if let's say you are technically a tech person, that's what you're doing, that's your job. It's really important for you to be integrated in much wider network of friends. So I think it's important to have your tribe and people who really get the language you're about and your country, your company, but it's also equally important, to get to know very different people in your city, very different people than you, and you'll learn so much more. So, someone's reading different books, someone that is into politics, someone that's in social work, someone that's an immigrant, someone, just all those different types of perspectives, and to do the work. And it's again, I don't think it's volumes of time, but it's the perspective or the optics of like really trying to get out and see how what you are does connect to all these other things. And I really do believe, again, I think the world's more integrated than we understand. And so it's fun to explore that. So
I know you recently hosted some Harvard MBA.
We did,
MBAers,
yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to butcher it, so I'm going to let you answer this. But what was your first assignment for them when they got to Chattanooga?
Well, so it's interesting. They sent 90 first-year Harvard Business School students here to the city for, I think, 2 weeks. And then Chattanooga FC got 6 of them assigned to us. And so they were trying to figure out how do we as a club be more integrated with our work with the foundation that I oversee. And I think they had all these ideas, and a lot of their ideas sound good in Boston, because that's kind of when they're doing research. But when you get to a specific city like Chattanooga, one of the ideas they had was, take the bus from East Lake, which is a part of Chattanooga where a lot of our kids are, to a game, which is 3 miles, not far. But when I said, well, let's go do that. So we actually did our bus line. And again, it's not Chattanooga's strongest suit. We're not like Boston. And it took 50 minutes.
To get 3 miles.
3 miles.
Wow. So you could have walked
almost.
Just about
I'm pretty sure you can walk faster.
Wow.
And they realized, that's not it made sense as an idea, but it's not a good solution once you get here and you experience it. So that was the first assignment.
Yeah. So I think that, to me, it's just always fascinating. We talk about tech, and it's become so ambiguous. Everyone's tech enabled or has some element of technology. And technology to me is fire was one of the most revolutionary technologies, the wheel, airplanes. There's so many different things. It doesn't necessarily mean software, which is kind of how it has, evolved. At least in my world, that's what I think of first.
We forget all the other stuff. Yeah.
But we forget a bus is like such a fundamental technology to get 3 miles, and software is great, but that's still the fundamental piece, right? To connecting people. Transportation. So yeah. And I know Chattanooga is a logistics hub. Like, we're in the middle of Freight Alley. We have some of the most successful freight brokerages here. logistics companies, VCs, and so
This gig, our gig,
we got to get it right. Yeah. If we can't get it right locally, then it feels silly to do it for the rest of the world. On the tech piece, and tech being very broad, I love the 2-minute story of your name and why that relates to technology.
So, well, you know my name. Krue is what people call me, but for the first month of my life, my actual name is Krusey.
K-R-U-E-S-I.
K-R-U-E-S-I. And my great-great-granddad came from Spiegler, Switzerland in the 1870s, late 1870s, and immigrated to New York, got a job with Singer as a mechanic fixing sewing machines, and was discovered in a sense by Thomas Edison. And Thomas Edison said, "Hey, can you come help me be a mechanical engineer for me?" And he said, "Absolutely." And so he went, and they became really good partners. And he actually was the person that built the phonograph, which is pretty cool. And if you think about, that's all the music we listen to gets back to that. And the first thing they did, if you go to the archives, I think in Schenectady or the Smithsonian, they played "Mary Had a Little Lamb," and so they put it on that little thing where you crank it around, and it had these indentions on it, and you hear Edison go, "Krusey, it works!" Because they were freaking out that it actually figured out how to take those and create sound out of it that got broadcast. So I think it's pretty cool. And then when he died, Edison was really good to give each of his kids, so it'd be my great granddad, Paul Krusey, 1 or 2 patents. He moved to Chattanooga in early 1900. Thought Chattanooga was one of the coolest places, called the Dynamo Dixie, and came down here. We've been here ever since. So, but then he had all daughters, so the name's kind of gone out as the last name.
But it's continued with you, and then one of your daughters.
One of my daughters, Krusey.
Shout out to Krusey.
I have a cousin, Jack Krusey, still got the last name, yeah.
I'll keep going. That was the first time that the human voice was heard, not directly from a human speaking, right? What they say.
That's what I say.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fun. It's a good connection with Chattanooga and technology as well.
Yeah. Well, and for me, it's funny. We didn't grow up in a home that was heavily embedded with technology. I don't think we got a laptop until I was in high school. Didn't get a phone till college. iPhones were coming out right when I was finishing high school, and that was intentional, I think. And to me, made a great childhood. But it's also given me an appetite. The more I've learned about John Krusey and him being an inventor, to say, I don't think I'm naturally gifted to be that technical. I'm not a coder. I'm not a mechanical engineer. But I love talking to those people. I love hearing how their brain works, and at least being able to be the ligament that can connect people that think the same and see what they can create. So it's been fun to at least get more exposure to the tech world the past couple of years through recruiting, and have a front row seat. If you threw me in there, I'd have no idea what I was doing. But we got to go see the Mars 2020 rover.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm blanking on the name now. Curiosity, Perseverance, whichever one it is. It's there now. Our friend Gabe is a shout out to Gabe Matter, and he's an engineer at NASA. Great host. Yeah. And he was just posting. He's really good at doing gainers too, which is pretty cool.
Off the diving board?
I saw him do one this weekend off of a cliff into an abandoned dam outside of Los Angeles. Find another NASA engineer who can do that.
Might be the new TikTok trend.
Yeah, it might be. But this is a tangent, but they have a little rock that's in the rover's wheel now. And they're trying to figure out if they want to keep it in there or try to shake it out. It's just crazy that they're communicating with this machine. I forget how many miles it is, but it's very far away.
I do remember walking in there and thinking, I cannot believe this thing's going to be on Mars.
Yeah, so
it is there right now.
It's there. Okay. Yeah, and they're talking to it. And so I think that's what's fun about our space is, again, throw me in there and I'm going to break it. But being able to see it's so inspiring, seeing what people can come up with.
It really is amazing.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Did you want to say anything on that? I saw you about to say something.
Well, I think that it's the ability to take look at a problem and figure out how to solve it is really a gift. And I think people with that capacity, sometimes have so many things going on in their heads all the time. It's trying to figure out how to direct it. So it's I think it's one of the gifts of someone like an Edison who has an idea and a Krue who has the capacity. And again, it's that building that team. I'm sure there's a lot more, but there's many people involved. You get your people, harvesting steel. You got your people testing it out. So it's fun to see all those pieces come together. So that's the connectivity piece.
Yeah. Very cool.
Never a one person deal.
Yeah. We've been talking a lot about this idea of the infinite game. It's a Simon Sinek idea that I've really resonated with, and just thinking of business as not being these finite games. It's infinite. You're continuously trying to figure out how to build partnerships and add value. And I think it gets back to the macro idea you're talking about of recruiting for Chattanooga. It's how are you incorporating, assimilating people into a community that's going to continue to flourish for 100, 200, 500 years, which is crazy to think about.
Well, and we all develop and we all change. So even if someone comes in with a certain kind of season of their life, a certain gift set, you can be on a team. It can really help you. If you do a good job, any good team is going to help you develop a whole lot more. And then you're going to look at the world even a little differently. And you got to have kind of the freedom in some ways to kind of break that pattern and look for the new one and keep growing. So I think it's, I think we have gifts in us yet to be unfurled, but if you don't believe that, you're going to miss it sometimes. So
unfurled. And that happens a lot through friends
work.
Being a mirror to you too, right?
Yeah.
Coworkers saying, I think you're good at that. Or like the fact that John Krue went from being a sewing machine mechanic or whatever his role was to inventing, several things with Edison. I think that happens too now. And that is a really cool thing about LinkedIn is people get discovered and get a platform in a way that,
I love that.
Used to just happen through word of mouth. So I know it happened, but it feels like people in the middle of nowhere, maybe in the world now, can get discovered for a gift and really have it maximized.
And again, it's nothing against LinkedIn. It's just, I think we all ought to think a little more like that when we pass someone, even in the street, just having that, what's your word?
Pronoia.
Pronoia, yeah. Where you expect there's something there, there's something there instead of, just a random person you're walking by, and kind of having that, like, I wonder how they're hardwired. I wonder what their gifts are. I wonder what's in them. Do they know that? Are they kind of having fun exploring it? Are they exercising? I mean, I would argue that work itself, like the work environment, the ability to work is such a gift, and it helps us develop things that nothing else in our lives does. We have certain relationships, they help us develop in certain ways, but work itself, the tasks you get asked to do, the team you get to be a part of, the things you get to apply in yourself, it helps shape you in ways that nothing else does. So I see so many people that look, they're still trying to figure out, am I a slave? Like, do I have to work or do I get to work? And I think, one of the things that you do a good job of is inviting people into work, and letting them realize it's a gift. This is a good opportunity for you.
Well, you taught me that, so thanks.
You apply it well.
I've been trying to challenge candidates. We're in probably one of the highest levels of entitlement in the talent market in technology that we've ever had. In July, there was 30,000 tech workers laid off, and that's a big number. That's a big increase, but there's still a pretty high level of entitlement. And so I think part of that is everyone has the finite game mentality of, how do I get my piece of equity, have a big exit, and then I really care what happens to the company because I kind of got my piece of the pie and can retire or do what I want. And I'm hoping that the entitlement will come back to some sense of normalcy. A lot of good things have happened, and that meaning companies have to level up their talent retention and employee engagement. Another fun stat that we were talking about before we recorded was only 22% of employees are actively engaged. 13% are actively disengaged. And of that 13%, 20% watch Netflix on the clock.
At work.
And that number hasn't jumped up as much as you'd think from on-site to remote. So it just kind of goes to show, like, I think they say, this is one of those huge, crazy stats. It's hard to validate, but $7 trillion is lost on employee engagement every year. So anyways, I think there's a lot of good things happening in that space because of the great reshuffle. And maybe we can thank the candidate entitlement to some degree for that. But I'm hoping that it will decrease. And back to what you were saying, people could look at work as something that is joyful, not because it's easy or comfortable, but because it gives them an opportunity to build character. If you view career that way, it's just so different than how do I acquire enough capital to not have to do this. So hopefully in recruiting, we deal with people of all different personalities. Sometimes you just have to make the hire, but I think it's worth at least asking the question along the way. Sometimes a good dialogue, sometimes there's not.
Well, we talk about that a lot. The idea of we're becoming beings, and so if we really do understand that we're not ever going to stop growing, developing, becoming, that there really is this kind of given potential within us. Work's an integral part of that. The last thing you want to do is try to put a pause in that and say, "Well, I'm done." I think it's kind of
the
sad.
Sprint to retire.
For what? For what?
Yeah, that's good.
So if your mindset is I want to keep becoming, and again, wisdom is learning. As you become, it doesn't always look the same way. It's not the same 20-year-old type job where I'm really trying to figure stuff out. It's more reflective, maybe more helping others, but it's still very much a part of the work you do, and really trying to keep growing.
I like that.
Yeah.
Someone today, I was talking to a client in London actually, and I was like, I'm jumping on a podcast later. What's one good thought? And this is a startup leader that I respect a lot. And she said, try to really get into conversations with people to figure out how you get to a yes together.
That's good. I like that.
And that could be personal or professional, but I think a lot of times maybe
both.
Yeah, it may be both.
Yeah.
But just having, you can either internalize conflict and you kind of feel that way, or you can externalize it and hopefully get rid of it. You can't really avoid conflict, just either internalize or externalize. And so I like that idea in the kind of manager-employee setting too. Just how do you keep creating a safe space for the employee to say, hey, here's what I really want. How do we get to a yes, you can get there? In a world of it's TikTok driven, it's social media driven, we're kind of bred now to think, especially Gen Z, what is the quick win? Get rich quick scheme, passive income, whatever it is. And when that translates to a company, I think it exhausts managers. They're like, I just need you to show up and trust the process for 5, 10, 20 years. So yeah, I think that's another one of those things. How do you get to a yes together? And a yes that it might look different. It might not mean you're the CEO or the manager within the first 3 to 5 years.
I think given the context of right here, I can't help but hear that and not think of you and Builder having, I feel like y'all had to resolve conflict at least 10 to 15 to 20 times a day.
Oh yeah.
And that's, but I think y'all have built up such good disciplines on how the point was, how do we get, we really want to get back and play together, and that's kind of a yes, it's like what do we need to do to reconcile, to work this conflict out, till we can get back to playing together. And that's the playing together is kind of like the work. Yes. It's like, all right, good. Now we're good. Let's go play, let's go do whatever we're doing. So I think if people would enjoy learning how to figure that stuff out and the kind of the work it takes to, conflict sometimes, or to have different ideas and then get to a place where you're like, that's it. That's it. Let's do that. We agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
But it does take work.
Shout out to Builder.
Yeah.
You're on the short list of guests We'll get you soon.
Johnny B.
Johnny B. I got a couple, and to Waypoint Builders Company, it's doing some really cool stuff in the media world for hunting and fishing, outdoor content out in Austin, but started in Chattanooga.
Yeah.
I've got a couple quick stats or stories that I just want to get your thoughts on.
All right, let's hear it.
So iFixit is coming to Chattanooga. I think that's going to be their East Coast headquarters.
Very exciting.
It's supposed to bring 201 jobs to Hamilton County, where Chattanooga is, over the next 5 years. On 12th Street, I believe. Any thoughts on that?
Well, it's really fun for me because the south side, that's the south side of Chattanooga, which is where, our family ended up making candy, early 1905. And so it's always been an important part of the city for me. Stopped making candy there, and the city wants to move outside of the ridge. And so it's kind of been, anytime something comes back to the south side where they're fixing it like iFixit is. It's exciting. Yeah. So I'm really glad where they're going. It's not far at all from my office, and I'm ready for it. It's coming soon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. Robinhood laid off 700 more people, and they've been kind of the first micro investing type company that, to my knowledge, that incorporated crypto. So it's just signaling that crypto is still down. And yeah, I mean, that's 700 people is not a small amount. So just curious if you have any thoughts. I know you're not crazy into crypto investing, but any thoughts on that?
Holly is, though.
Yeah.
My wife, his mom.
Yep.
So yeah, what's your question? Just about what do I think about that?
Just any response. If you don't have one, you don't.
Well, I think crypto is it's an interesting concept, and I think we have to. It's not going away, so it's just trying to figure out how. Like, it's like to your yes thing. What's the yes? What it's got to find that place where it meshes with where our economy is and where people are comfortable with it. But I don't think it's going away.
Less of a get rich quick Ponzi scheme flip, and more of a what's the real utility and value.
Yeah, and it's a good healthy challenge to a system of how we place value on things, and what does it mean to transact, and how do I give you something for this? It's just, I think those are all very good philosophical questions any good economy always needs to ask. And so I think it's just coming at a good time. It's intriguing to me.
Yeah,
but it's in a different place for sure. Which is probably not
2021
bad.
was pretty wild.
Yeah.
Nike's offering 5,000 referral bonuses for certain tech jobs. It's always interesting. Like 30,000 people laid off in July, but for that top talent, there's still a shortage. And I think that's open source. Like anyone can refer. And we're seeing more of that, not just at Nike. Nike's like a premier brand, but there's more and more of these bounty boards or open job boards where you can refer your spouse, your kid, your friend, and actually get paid like a executive recruiter would, which it's a really interesting trend. But yeah, any thoughts on that?
Well, what do you think about that? I'm curious. I mean, is it a challenge to what y'all do? Or, like, it's just an interesting.
I put it in the bucket of like, I don't even know if I'd say it like this. Like Elon Musk made all of Tesla's patents open source. Such a confident position to say like I believe in the infinite game.
Yep.
I believe that this is adding value to humanity. Come and let's figure out what to do with it. And also, it's so challenging that you're not going to catch me and Tesla, at least in the next couple of decades. Right. I kind of view that with recruiting. Like, it's amazing to have open source talent acquisition to where, of course, anyone can refer. Like your friend you want to advocate for.
I've got a guy.
It's so fun to have an agent. It's so fun to have an agent and be like, they're going to put their name on the line for me. I still think the best hiring is when you get a text intro from someone you trust to someone they trust. It takes away so much of the inefficiencies of applicant tracking systems and applications and screening. You have to do your due diligence to qualify them, and you can be biased with friends, yes. But that's my take. Like, I think it's amazing. It's going to help the candidate have more access to opportunity. But also, I think what we do is really hard, and it takes a lot of intentionality to where people will some people will probably make one referral and get a $5,000 kickback from Nike and be like, I'm a recruiter. This is easy. Maybe like real estate in a hot market. Like maybe it's like, yeah, I showed the house and I made a big commission. But I would say try it and see if you can do one hire a month. And if you can do that, you probably have recruiting DNA and you might need to look at jumping in full time. If not, do it for the love of the game. Make one referral a year and have a blast with it. That's my take.
Interesting. It's also fascinating to think about people who are considering recommending somebody. Do they know Nike? How well do they know Nike? Like the internal culture versus just the brand, that they get marketed. Because they're, I do some homework and make sure, like, is this friend of mine who does have these gifts, comfortable with the way that pod or that team or whatever would work at Nike? Because each, it's a big company, so it's good to know.
It's keyword qualifying.
Yeah.
It's matching the job description with their resume, much less real culture and
And I like the latter.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that's real recruiting, headhunting, whatever you want to call it. So that's not going anywhere.
Okay, good.
All right, last one. These are the two skills that continue to be most in demand and what we need, kind of big picture: cybersecurity and cloud computing. I think there's two pretty cool local companies that are working on both these things. But yeah, are you exposed to that world at all? There's some really smart hackers out there. I think that's why cybersecurity is really important. And then cloud computing, just being able to access information from basically anywhere is pretty powerful.
Well, I guess I would argue, I think our greatest need is still for people to learn how to increase their capacity to love and to be loved. But the cybersecurity and cloud computing, wow. That's over my head.
I appreciate the honesty.
I don't even know. I have a good friend that does, Henry has cloud. What's his company called?
Broadband?
Well, but he has a company it's in that space.
Okay.
You can tell how far off I am.
Yeah.
To talk about it. So
yeah. Well,
fundamentally, I think we all have kind of our soul or our neural net's a little bigger than we are. So I'm still trying to figure out what does each human being have as far as their own little cloud. But when it comes to that macro, I don't know much.
You could think about some of it maybe even as like Toby stuff. Like that's a level of security with biometric facial screenings or retinal screenings, levels of security like that. It's a huge space. But yeah, how do you protect your data online? And then how do you access data from basically anywhere? I would say are like two of the big goals of those spaces. And we're all, I guess what it's showing is we all have an appetite for that. But we don't have enough people that know how to do it well.
But what I don't understand is, so for me, I grew up, where I have a Social Security piece of paper, a Social Security card as a piece of paper. I mean, that was a big deal. It seems like you guys just give information out, like, you'll sign up for this, you'll download your credit card. I'm like, yeah, what are y'all doing? So I still don't understand like y'all's perspective on what's important and what's not. Like, how do you know what data is worth protecting and what data is?
I would say,
is Social Security number even matter anymore? Like, to me, I'm still like, I'm not telling you my.
No, I would say
my last 4 digits is still even.
Yeah, we were pretty naive. I mean, the people that grew up in social media now have a lot of us have a big digital footprint or digital identity. And it's like, we were talking before this, how many posts do you have on Facebook that are so cringy? And you're like, oh man,
zero.
Yeah, you have zero. I have plenty. But yeah, that's it. What do you want your digital footprint to be? Can you actually delete it? Where is it still sitting out there? What does that mean? So yeah.
So like I did Instagram for a year. Remember that? I did like 50 posts or something like that. That's part of my digital footprint.
Digital footprint.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
I feel like that account might even still be live, even if you haven't logged in. So
maybe I'll get back.
Hopefully you liked what you posted.
I did.
Okay, good.
Oh yeah, I did.
All right, last question from me.
All right.
I got two, and then we'll be done. One, what the heck are you wearing?
Nice question. So this is Camisa Típica. It's a shirt. I taught a class this past semester at UTC on the Guatemala of Chattanooga because that's an important part of my life. In Chattanooga, a lot of people have come from Huehuetenango, Quetzaltenango, San Marcos region of Northwest Guatemala. And so it's become important part of my story here. So the class I taught, there were 2 students in it from Guatemala, and the whole class was kind of bent on helping us understand kind of how this culture and community is growing and what it means. And at the end, the last day, one of the students gave me this and said, just an appreciation. And I think they may have felt a little, maybe not so comfortable being a Guatemalan here. And at the end, I think they felt like they were more empowered or more appreciated. And so he was kind of saying thanks. So I love it. It's very, very me. I like shirts like this. It's got this fancy little whoop.
And I know going back to the earlier story, you would wear that into any company in Chattanooga, which is it's a confident position.
Well,
I feel like I have to dress up a little bit.
It's a great shirt.
Yeah. I like it. What's the name again? What's it called?
Well, it's just typical shirt. Yeah.
Okay.
Camisa Típica, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But it's for Northwest Guatemala, so it's got these really cool woven patterns. And
you probably won't get an Instagram ad for it after.
No, but it's so funny. Like last night, we went out to dinner at Tremont Tavern, and was walking up the street to our car. There were a couple guys over here getting out of the car. They were Guatemalan guys, and he looked at me. He's like, pointed at me. I said, "Chapin," because Chapin is like a true Guatemalan, and he's like, "Yeah, it was fun. Yeah,
that's awesome."
So it works. And I feel honored. I mean, when I wear it, I feel like it was an honor. It was given to me as a gift. So I have a lot of gratitude, honestly.
One day after I've actually gone to Guatemala, I'd love to be worthy to wear one.
I'm going next week.
Until then.
Do you know that?
Well,
yeah.
Thanks for the
invite. They all look for one.
Yeah. All right. Last question. Any hires that you want to shout out? Open roles, opportunities, any jobs that you're connected to that you want to shout out in case anyone that's listening is on the market and might be interested in checking it out?
This is a job they would take. They would come to Chattanooga for, or anywhere in the world?
Either. Yeah.
Wow.
Any cool job opportunities that you're connected to that you'd like to shout out?
I mean, I have a lot that just flowed through my head real quick. There's
and ideally ones that aren't confidential.
Well, I have a good friend that works for the World Food Program. He's always building his team. I have a good friend that's rebuilding a company in London that makes me think about it. I have a good friend in Indonesia. These are the ones that just kind of like, that they're really working on. The one in Indonesia is fascinating because it's around cinema. So it's kind of building kind of that whole world there, narrative in the Far East. But for Chattanooga, come on. One job that I'm thinking of. Well, I wish the only thing that comes to mind with this technology that we developed that I wish someone would buy. That's not really a job.
It could become a job, yeah.
Well, it's in the what is it? FinTech, financial tech.
Yeah. Okay.
So if anyone wants a really good app tool in the FinTech space, we have one for you.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a good plug.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
No, I love it.
Appreciate
it's always
it.
good to be there.
We'll bring you back at some
Proud
point.
of you.
Thank you.
All right. I love you.
All right.
All right.
Until next time, thanks for tuning in to In the Arena. That was awesome.